phase, and you get like, you just, like you said, you almost feel like Job. You don't feel good. You get headaches, whatever. And then all of a sudden you get over that hump and you're like, oh man, I feel better. I get up in the morning. My back isn't stiff. My joints don't hurt. I recover a little faster from, a pulled muscle or something like that. And you really start to see that. And I think it really helps in that process of going, whoa, what have I been doing to my body in this process? But
right.
At the same time, it's tough because you get in that, you get to that point where it's like, oh man, the headaches, the whatever else, how easy would it be to, have a Pepsi or some more caffeine from coffee or another brownie or, those type of things. And you want to jump back into that because your body is so addicted to those sugars or, whatever it may be, that you kind of have to fight through it. But yeah, when you get on the other side, it's life and you can't be legalistic about it. Like you said, you can't, and you're not always going to be perfect, but it's amazing once you kind of get that out of your system and you make those little changes, how much it really does affect your health and how much you can really see the difference in just little things. I mean, at least for myself, I can feel it. I have some gluten issues, and if I eat a sandwich with just plain old bread, I'll get headaches. The next day, my hands are just, I'm almost like I'm arthritic. Yep. You feel it, and you go, oh man, I got that all out of my system. Why on earth, no matter how much I really wanted that Reuben, cause I love, sauerkraut, Thousand Island dressing and corned beef. The next day I'm going, oh man, I can't hardly move my hands. I'm only 30-some years old. This isn't good. Why did I put myself through that? Was that sandwich really worth it? But you start to realize those things, and I think it's amazing how much we in America have really taken nutrition and our food for granted because it's so easy to just run into the market or the gas station and pick something up that is pre-made or there and not think about what we're eating and throw it in the oven and eat it and think it's not impacting our body. But when you really start to look at it biblically, like we've talked about and what our ancestors, grandpas and grandmas ate, you start going, oh, maybe going back to this makes a little more sense or has a bigger impact than I really think it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And my killer is Diet Coke. I used to drink so much of that, and then I found out what aspartame does to your body, and I stopped. But like you were saying, I mean, I'll crumble, and there'll be one there, ice cold, thirsty, and yeah, my fingers hurt, my elbows hurt, and the next day, and I'm like, whoa, I cannot do that. That's horrible. All right, so let's talk about what is our food like today. What we've touched about it throughout the conversation here, but what are we doing to our food today? What's going on? Yeah,
there's been a big change in the last 50 years, and really, I think the biggest aspect of it is just nutrition. Our farms and our food system has been created and designed to produce bigger, faster products and not necessarily nutrition designed because those systems are, you're getting paid for your yield versus how quality of a product, you're producing. And so you have, from a nutritional level, you have things like it starts really basically at the soil. When you look at like our farming system, and not to rip on farmers because my father-in-law is a farmer and I love farmers, but they've kind of been trained like all of us to do it this way. And that's, the soil has really been stripped of a lot of nutrients, where our grandparents, when they farmed, there was things like cover crops and natural fertilizers that they were putting on the fields at the end of the year. There wasn't the toil on the soil and the land that there is today. And so the product they were raising was very nutrient dense, high quality food. And today we're seeing varieties of corn and wheat and soybean that are designed to grow really quick, produce a lot of what, be it corn or wheat, and to get to market as soon as it can. So to do that, then you're really stripping away a lot of the nutrients that should be going into the product itself. And so you're losing nutrients in the soil, you're losing nutrients when it grows. And then, we ship things all around the world. A lot of our food's coming from Mexico, Central America, places like that. So nutrients that would still be in it in that shipping process, you lose some of those nutrients. A great example of that is asparagus, which doesn't seem, I don't know how many people really love asparagus out there. I've learned to love it as I've grown in this process, but it loses almost all of its vitamin C, which is, a very simple nutrient in it, within the first week of its process. So, if it's being grown in Mexico and it's getting shipped to St. Paul, Minnesota, by the time it gets there, it's already lost most of its good nutrients that you want to, you're eating it to get to be healthy. And then you add things on top of that of things that have been sprayed on it to keep it green or looking really nice, because when we go into that grocery store, you don't want that apple with the bruise, or the lettuce that maybe kind of wilted a little bit on the ends. You want that big, beautiful product. And so you're applying all these things to our food system that weren't there 50, 60 years ago. And so, kind of from the get-go, if you're looking at even grown products and stuff like that, you're already losing your nutrients. And then if you compare that to boxed foods or foods that have had preservatives added to them, you're looking at even, less nutrient based. And so these things that your body needs for you to be healthy and strong, that you would have a long time ago gotten from your food, have been stripped away and aren't there for your body to get. So it has to pull from other areas, or you have to look for a supplement or something like that to keep those levels going in your body, or things like the preservatives and different things that are in foods these days, especially prepackaged foods, kind of mask some of those things. So your body thinks it's getting it, but at the same time, those nutrients aren't there. So, I think the biggest thing that we've seen looking back is just how less nutrient our food is. And, for life, that's key. You need those nutrients in your body for fighting off disease, for, growth and development and stuff like that. And so really that nutrient aspect is huge in what we're seeing from food even, 50 years ago. And when I say 50 years ago, I know that seems like a long time for a lot of people, but when you look at the grand scheme of life, 50 years is, a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that far for me since I'm over 50.
If you're over 50, that's like nothing.
Yep. But it's true. And as I've started eating just more whole foods instead of all the processed stuff, I'm not as hungry all the time. It's like that processed food just makes you want to crave more of it and more and more and more.
Yeah, that's amazing how that does that, and how that impacts your body. And you eat. I agree with you. You eat a very a meal of meat and vegetables and maybe a fruit, and you can walk away and be like, man, I'm really full, where, you eat something prepackaged or whatever, and it's like, man, I just ate a large pizza by myself. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good for me as a 37-year-old man to eat a whole large pizza by myself. I kind of, do the look around, like there was a kid who stole a piece or two, right? Maybe
right.
3.
Yeah. No, I mean, Hamburger Helper used to be my killer too. That I could just eat a whole box of that with a pound of hamburger. I didn't care. I mean, it was so good. Oh my goodness. But yeah, the food today, you had made a comment like, we're stripping the soil. What are farmers doing now? Because biblically they'd farm a land for 6 years and let it rest on the 7th. But we don't do that anymore, do we?
No, and that's one of those things that, I think in the farming world is kind of hotly contested. Biblically, God said, hey, you can work this field, you can do it, but it needs a year of rest. It needs a year to sit. And part of that now, when you look back scientifically, or when you look at it scientifically, it's a very important thing, because it allows nutrients and things that plants and the soil needs to really grow and be that thick, dark soil, get put back in that year of rest. And now you have things where fields are constantly in use. There may be rotating a crop in or out, but when they need that certain element back into it, they'll spray a fertilizer, they'll add nitrogen or something like that. But it's a chemical, fertilizer. It's those type of things. It's not that natural element that's kind of adding in the whole complete cycle of things you need. And so you just see more wear and tear on the land than there used to be. Even in the aspect of, you've got this heavy equipment that is, turning up these fields, and there, you can get a field planted and tilled up and drilled and things growing in, a day, where, a long time ago, that same process, and not even a long time ago, 50 years ago, that same process would have taken you maybe a couple days. And so I think you see just an overall impact on our soil and the land that we use for farming and growing our food. And so it just, it impacts in little ways, that I think a lot of us, and I'll say this, growing up in marrying into a farm family, even I didn't think about until, some of these things where I've talked to my wife and asked questions, and she throws out, oh yeah, I grew up in a farming family, but this is different than how it would have been done, 50 years ago, and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, okay, I see how that's changed. That I could see where that impacts that, even, what seems like a really small level, but those little small things keep adding up, and we see the nutrient level of that food impacted more and more. And then you think about consuming it and how that affects your body, and it goes from there.
Yeah. The one thing we didn't talk about, but we've got a few minutes left here that I'd like to touch on. It's like for let's say a dad and their kids to do a little backyard farm.
Yeah.
And when we lived in Detroit, we didn't. And I hate weeding. I mean, I despise it. And so when we planted,
don't we all?
My goodness, I can't stand it. But so we put these little boxes out back, had built some boxes and put soil in it, and we're out there one day, and one of the prerequisites of doing this with my wife, I said, I'm not doing the weeding. I can't do it. So I built the boxes and filled it and everything, and we're out there one day talking, and she's trying to show me how biblically all this goes, it's all in the Bible on how to do this. And And you had mentioned with the 6 years in arrest.